Welcome to Geography Samacheer syllabus of Tamilnadu. Class 8 Geography, Hydrologic Cycle, Part 3. In today's class, let us learn about precipitation and different forms of precipitation. What is precipitation? Water that falls to earth in any form, rain, snow, sleet or hail. It is called as precipitation. In other words, we can say precipitation is nothing but all forms of water that fall from clouds and reaches the earth's surface. For the occurrence of precipitation, the water droplets or ice crystals must grow heavy enough to fall through the air. When the droplets grow large in size, they tend to fall. While moving down, by collecting some small droplets, they become heavy enough to fall out of the cloud as raindrops. What are the different forms of precipitation? Hail, sleet, rain, snow, or the different forms of precipitation. The most common form of precipitation that we all know is rain. The form of precipitation in a region depends on the kind of weather or the climate of the region. The precipitation in the warmer parts of the world is always in the form of rain or drizzle. In colder regions, precipitation may fall as snow or ice. Common types of precipitation include rain, sleet, freezing rain, hail, and snow. Rain. The most common kind of precipitation is rain. This precipitation in the form of water droplets is called rain. The precipitation in which the size of raindrops are less than 0.5 millimeter in diameter is known as drizzle, and the raindrops with more than 0.5 millimeter in diameter is known as rain. Generally, drizzle takes place from stratus clouds. Sleet. The precipitation, which takes place in the form of mixture of water droplets and tiny particles of ice, 5 millimeter in diameter, is known as sleet. Sometimes raindrops fall through a layer of air below 0 degrees Celsius, the freezing point of water. As they fall, the raindrops freeze into solid particles of ice because they are entering into the layer of air which has less than 0 degrees Celsius of temperature. So when they enter this particular layer, these water droplets, they freeze and become solid particles of ice. So the mixture of water droplets and ice particles would fall on the earth's surface, and it is called as sleet. And there is another form which is also called as graupel. And sleet is liquid precipitation that freezes before reaching the ground. And whereas this graupel, it's just a snowflake that collects supercooled water droplets on its surface. Freezing rain. Sometimes raindrops falling through cold air near the ground do not freeze in the air. Instead, the raindrops freeze when they touch a cold surface, and this is called freezing rain. And the drops of water are usually greater than 0.5 millimeter in diameter. This diagram explains how the freezing rain is formed. The precipitation begins as snow at higher altitude, and when they reach the warm, moist air mass, they melt into water droplets. Again, the snow melts as it falls through the warmer air, turning into rain. Again, as the rain encounters a layer which is below the freezing point temperature, it becomes super cool and the raindrops freezes. The supercooled water droplets freeze on impact with any object they encounter. Hail or hailstones. The precipitation, which consists of round pellets of ice which are larger than 5 millimeter in diameter, is called hail or hailstones. Hail forms only in cumulonimbus clouds during thunderstorms. A hailstone starts as an ice pellet inside a cold region of a cloud. Strong updraft in the cloud carry the hailstone up and down through the cold region many times. And this picture explains the formation of a hailstone. Hail is too large for cloud to hold, and because of its weight, it falls to earth, causing strong cold downfront. Hail growing in circulating convection currents, and this is a freezing level, and raindrops being sucked into updraft. And this diagram explains how the different forms of precipitation are formed on the basis of the temperature of the atmosphere. Warm air, when the ice flakes or snowflakes enter the warm air, they melt and they become raindrops and fall as rain. And again, when they react with the cold surface, they become freezing rain. And here, because of the cold air, the frozen precipitation melts, again refreezes into sleet before hitting the ground. And this snow you can see in higher altitudes like Greenland, Iceland, and also in higher latitude places. You can see the snow which never melts because of its high altitude and also because of the high latitude. Snow. Often water vapor in cloud is converted directly into snow pieces due to lowering of temperature. It appears like a powdery mass of ice. The precipitation in the form of powdery mass of ice is known as snowfall. It is common in polar and high mountain regions. There are six main components in hydrologic cycle. They are evapotranspiration, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, percolation, and runoff. Infiltration is an important process where rainwater soaks into the ground through the soil and underlying rock layers. Some of this water ultimately returns to the surface through springs or low spots downhills. Some of the water remains underground and is called underground water. The rate of infiltration is influenced by the physical characteristics of soil, whether the soil is porous or non-porous, the texture of the soil, etc., vegetative cover, moisture content of the soil, soil temperature, and rainfall intensity. The terms infiltration and percolation are often used interchangeably. Depending on how saturated the ground is, the water can continue downwards to replenish water tables and aquifers. This is called a percolation. If there are water bodies nearby, the infiltrated water can also end up in the water bodies after. So here, this is precipitation. The rain falls here. And here, the rock is non-porous, the soil is non-porous. So this region has very less infiltration. And where there is the soil is porous or the rocks are porous, the infiltration is more. Here the infiltration is more, here the infiltration is less, based on the type of the porosity of the soil and rocks. And this is the water table, which also it runs across and it also ends up in the nearest water body. Percolation process. What is percolation? Percolation is the downward movement of infiltrated water through the soil and rock layers. Infiltration occurs near the surface of the soil and delivers water from the surface into the soil and plant to root zones. Percolation moves this infiltrated water through the soil profile and rock layer, which leads to the formation of groundwater or become a part of subsurface runoff process. Thus, the percolation process represents the flow of water from unsaturated zone to the saturated zone. So here it is a infiltration process is going on here, and the infiltrated water enters here and it is percolation. Here the percolation happens and it reaches the groundwater table, water table here. Runoff. Runoff is the water that is pulled by gravity across land's surface. It replenishes groundwater and surface water as it percolates into an aquifer. It is an underground layer of water-bearing rock or moves into a river, stream, or watershed. It comes from unabsorbed water from rain, snow melt, irrigation, or other sources, comprising a significant element in the water cycle as well as the water supply when it drains into a watershed. Runoff is also a major contributor to the erosion, which carves out canyons, gorges, etc. The amount of runoff that can happen depends on the amount of rainfall, the nature of rainfall, whether it is very heavy or medium, porosity of soil, vegetation, and the slope of the land. Only about 35% of precipitation ends up in sea or ocean, and the other 65% is absorbed into the soil. So what is runoff is the water which is not absorbed by the soil is called as runoff. Types of runoff. Based on the time interval between the instance of rainfall and generation of runoff, the runoff may be classified into following three types. Surface runoff. It is a portion of rainfall which enters the stream immediately after the rainfall. It occurs when the rainfall is longer, heavier, and exceeds the rate of infiltration. In this condition, the excess water makes a head over the ground surface, which tends to move from one place to another following the land gradient, that is following the slope of the land, known as overland flow. When the overland flow joins the streams, channels, or oceans, it is termed as surface runoff. So the surface runoff happens when there is continuous rainfall and heavy rainfall, which is this when it exceeds the infiltration rate. Subsurface runoff. The water that has entered the subsoil and moves laterally without joining the water table to the streams, rivers, or oceans is known as subsurface runoff. The subsurface runoff is usually referred as interflow. See this picture, this is subsurface runoff. It moves laterally. This is subsurface flow and this is subsurface runoff. The flow of water beneath Earth's surface as part of the water cycle, that is subsurface. The water located beneath the Earth's surface in soil pore spaces, a unit of rock or an unconsolidated deposit is called as aquifer. Base flow. It is a flow of underground water from a saturated groundwater zone to a water channel. It usually appears at a downstream location where the channel elevation is lower than the groundwater table. Groundwater provides a stream flow during dry periods of small or no precipitation. So this is base flow. Here the infiltration takes place when it rains, and here the percolation, the interflow, the lateral interflow is going on here, and here the surface runoff, and here base flow. It is a flow of underground water from a saturated ground water zone to a water channel. With this, we come to the end of the lesson, hydrologic cycle. Hope you understood the lesson. Give your suggestions in the comment section and don't forget to like my channel. Thanks for watching.